A couple weeks ago, there was this really embarrassing spate of hacky Liberal Party activists on social media trying to spin a Leger poll showing the Liberals trailing the Conservatives by 12 points into a Justin Trudeau comeback narrative. From their perspective, this was a great poll because the Liberals had gotten used to trailing the Conservatives by 18 to 20 points, and I guess this 12% trail was good enough to think that Justin Trudeau might be reascendant in the next election. It was obviously not going to happen, but it really exposed how these people think. They believe that because Justin Trudeau keeps announcing all these bloated new spending programs, that somehow Canadians are going to come back to them because I guess Canadians don't actually care about results. They just care about the dollar sign and the value next to the programs the Liberal government is spending on, and that people were willing to vote for them because Trudeau was effectively bribing them with things like his new infrastructure program, universal dental, and universal pharmacare, all policies that are inevitably going to fail just as the previous versions of those policies already have failed. But Abacus Data has come out with a new poll showing that not only are the Conservatives ahead of the Liberals by now 20 points again, but the Conservatives are actually at their most popular position they've ever been in since Justin Trudeau became the Prime Minister of Canada back in 2015. Abacus Data is showing that the Conservatives are at 44%, with the Liberals only at 24%. And what I could find kind of interesting is a year ago, before Pierre Poilievre had become the leader of the Conservative Party, a little bit more than a year ago, the Liberals weren't even doing that well back then. They were at 29% in the polls. So really, they've only fallen 5%, which is not that much of a fall over an entire year period. The thing is, it's just that the Liberal Party has been floundering for a very long time. So when Erin O'Toole lost the 2021 election, it wasn't because Justin Trudeau was just that popular and Erin O'Toole wasn't able to claw away enough votes to win. It was that Justin Trudeau was super unpopular. Erin O'Toole somehow made himself even more unpopular than Justin Trudeau, and the election ended in a stalemate. So when Pierre Poilievre became the leader of the Conservative Party has gained anywhere from 9 to even up to 13 points, depending on the pollster that you reference, over like that being the trend, not just that I'm picking the highest result, but that's like the average gain between those polls. It's quite incredible. And so they actually haven't taken that entire gain away from the Liberals. Again, the Liberals have only fallen about 5, 6, 4 points. The Conservatives have gained from effectively everyone, and that's kind of the real narrative of this next election. It's not the Conservatives versus the Liberals, it's the Conservatives and everybody else. It's kind of like the Ontario election in 2022, except instead of Doug Ford effectively winning a big majority because Stephen Del Duca and Andrew Horwath were completely incompetent, that just outweighed the incompetence of Doug Ford, who's not very conservative at all. Because Pierre Poilievre is actually conservative and actually offering a fresh vision for the country, that means that everyone else's parties basically have become completely irrelevant. And I think the main thing is the fact that the NDP and the Liberals and the Bloc Quebecois have just tied themselves to the Liberals, and so they don't seem like actual alternatives. So the only alternative now is the Conservatives. It's everybody else versus the Conservatives, and these are the two charts that kind of prove it. So this is Jagmeet Singh's current popularity. He used to be a pretty popular guy a couple of years ago. He used to poll up to 42% in terms of his approval rating with Abacus Data. And now he's down at only 33% approval with 34% disapproval. And it is super easy to be a very well-liked NDP leader because nobody sees you as a threat. So everyone's willing to say, well, he's probably a nice guy. I'm never going to vote for him, but, he's not the Conservative or the Liberal, so I don't have strong feelings on him. I'll just say I like him. So that's the same thing that happened with Thomas Mulcair and Jack Layton. They generally had pretty good approvals because they didn't care about them that much, or everyone knew they weren't going to become Prime Minister. And now that Jagmeet Singh has tied himself to Justin Trudeau, he's deeply unpopular with a lot of Canadians because people see him, rightfully so, as the co-Prime Minister of the country. And here's Justin Trudeau's rankings. He's never been the most popular guy on the planet, but a couple years ago, he was kind of even. Maybe his net popularity was only -3. Now it's like -28 or so. His approval rating is only 25%, with his disapproval at 58%. You really don't come back from that. And what you'll notice in the trends of the country for the Liberal Party's popularity is that their popularity as a party almost perfectly matches Justin Trudeau's personal popularity. Because if you don't like Justin Trudeau, you're not voting Liberal. Because nothing happens inside the Liberal Party without Justin Trudeau's approval. It tends to be in conservative governments, there's a lot more personalities between the ministers. So depending on who's minister, different things tend to happen. You get some more go-getter conservative ministers who get a lot done. You get some people who don't do as much. You get people with more conservative philosophies, less conservative philosophies. Where in the Liberal Party, everyone might as well just be wearing a Justin Trudeau face mask because everyone just does exactly what Justin Trudeau wants. And the other trend in popularity is Pierre Poilievre. He's actually sitting at a net approval right now, which is very difficult for a conservative leader because the media is full of people just absolutely smacking you every single day with false accusations that you're a mean, nasty person. But these polls are showing that people are actually coming around to him and realizing that, like, yeah, we actually need somebody with a little bit of a different take on things than Justin Trudeau. So even though the natural instinct in Canada is to say, oh, a conservative must be like an American Republican, I hate them because I've been trained to think that, American conservative politics is evil, ergo it's like conservatives in Canada are evil. It's very silly the way people think about politics because they watch too much legacy media. But this is the more important poll than just the 44% for the Conservatives, is the poll of the major regions where the election is going to be decided. That's British Columbia, Ontario, and Atlantic Canada, where the most seats are truly up for grabs, where the least safe seats are present. So the Conservatives are at 46% in these three regions, with the Liberals only at 25%. These are the big regions that the Liberals need to be running up the score if they want to win the next election. And right now, it looks like even the seats that they thought were safe as of maybe a year ago are up for grabs. Mark Garrettson, Kingston and the Islands, he's probably going to be gone. Ken McDonald out in, I forget what the riding is, it's in Atlantic Canada, Newfoundland. He could be gone, even though he used to be a fairly popular local MP. He's going to be gone. Karina Gould in Burlington, gone, even though she's been a multi-term MP. There's so many Liberals who now are easy pickings, even though they're ministers, they've been around for 12 years. Same thing with the NDP. That's why a bunch of NDP MPs just left. The polling is just so bad for them because people aren't really voting against them personally. They're voting for actual change. That's kind of a narrative you get in a lot of elections. Do we want change or do we not want change? But it's even more profound now because it's not just, I want a different guy in government. They're saying we want a different philosophy in government. This wasn't part of Abacus Data's polling that came out, but a poll from another firm, I think it actually was Nanos, showed that 56% of Canadians believe the government's spending too much. That is an actual profound shift in Canada. In Canada over time, the idea is that all government spending is good government spending. The idea was that government programs help the poor, they help stabilize the economy, failing industries are propped up by the government, and that's a good thing. And we've gotten to the point where so many people's small businesses have fallen under, the inflation has kicked up so much, people haven't had any wage growth in the private sector in so long, while people in the public sector working for the government have been getting wage increases, including the politicians. And a lot of people are thinking, enough, you guys are going to have to figure out how to tighten your belts the way we have so that we can actually get ahead. That's what's going on with the polling when it comes to those issues these days. And that's what is being reflected in the national polling. And here's another good sort of overview of what's kind of going on in Canada, is that the Conservatives are just absolutely dominating with men, and yet they're still winning with women, and that was the firewall that the Liberals had. I don't have this result up, but the Liberals have always been a party that relies on pensioner votes because the deal of the Liberal Party is we're not as scary as the NDP, but we're also going to increase benefits at a rapid rate than the Conservatives would. So they'd win pensioner voters, and they'd also win women because women tend to be, and all women in the comment section can tell me if they know women like this. I know that you probably aren't like this because you're a conservative and you don't really follow legacy media if you're watching this channel. But women tend to vote for more stability in government, and that's what the Liberals tend to at least represent themselves as. We're not going to cut spending like the Conservatives, and we're not going to double the government spending the way the NDP would. Now, the Liberals are losing women because they are acting like the NDP. It's always been said, and I've said it many times before, Justin Trudeau is actually a very orange Liberal Party leader. He is not in the same tradition of Paul Martin, John Chrétien, and some of the other Liberal leaders. He's very much like his dad, who is also very orange, very much the big program type liberal. He's not just going to keep the benefits increasing steadily for those who currently receive them. He's going to start tons of new benefit programs. He's going to pass censorship policies. He's going to go after parental rights. He's going to go after pro-life charities. He's going to, go after firearms. And after doing so much in government, he's making the traditional bases of the Liberal Party extremely nervous. In fact, the only region the Liberal Party is currently in the lead in is in Quebec. And they're only leading the Bloc Quebecois by 1 point, and they're only leading the Conservatives by 4 points. That's an area of the country that if the Liberals want to win a majority government, they need to be leading by like 8 to 12 points on their next best opponent. And now they're trailing literally everywhere else. Atlantic Canada, that was a massive firewall for the Liberals. They won every single riding, as you remember, back in 2015 in the Atlantic Canada. Now, the Conservatives are at 47% in the polls, and I believe the Liberals are only at like 23. It's embarrassing out there because the Liberal Party believed that whatever they said was going to be law and everyone was going to follow them because the legacy media backed them up. It's not how it went down. Maritime voters actually tend to be more center-left when it comes to economics. They're in favor of benefit programs and other sort of subsidies because they have some industries that struggle. There's a lot of seasonal workers in that area. But maritime voters are socially conservative, very family values-based voters. And then when the Liberal Party started pushing a bunch of woke garbage on people, they lost the maritime voters once it actually started affecting their families. Justin Trudeau's virtue signaling in the first 5-6 years, that was ignorable. Who cares? He's not coming after us. He's just being kind of a twit on television. But when he actually started passing, Bill C-4, the anti-conversion therapy bill, which is really just enforcing gender theory in the home, when he started passing Bill C-16, the one that enforces pronouns as something that can be prosecuted as hate speech if you don't use the correct ones that people demand that you use, that stuff started alienating the Maritimes, going after pro-life Christian camps. That was ticking these people off. And now that Pierre Poilievre is actually offering an anti-woke alternative, unlike the Maritimes didn't get behind Aaron O'Toole in 2021, but now that Pierre Poilievre is actually allowing his socially conservative wing of the party to operate more freely than like Aaron O'Toole and Andrew Scheer did, these people are more comfortable coming over to the Conservative Party. And so what I think the Liberals are going to do from here on out is that they are going to basically double and triple down on what they've been doing before. I mean, not really a groundbreaking prediction on my behalf, but the thing is with the Liberal Party is that they assume, like in the past, that if they just release a bunch of programs and they see their polling bump up a little bit, then that is the path forward. And the media is going to ballyhoo every single new program that comes out. They're going to find 5 seniors who say, oh, this new dental program is really helping me out. And they're going to hope that the perception of sort of prosperity is going to lead the Liberals forward. It's not true. Just because inflation's come down a little bit, and it actually hasn't come down, the rate of increase has just slowed, that somehow people are just going to come back to them. I think that Canadians have become they're almost different voters now. They've become very results-based voters. It's no longer the promise of good things in the future that are going to get people coming out to vote for the Liberals. And so, yes, every once in a while, if the Liberals announce 3 or 4 new policies, the polls are going to reflect that they increase relative to Conservatives by 5 points. I think that's what the last Nanos poll and the last Leger poll showed. As soon as the Liberals announce a bunch of new programs, their polling rises a little bit. But then a couple months later, when everything still sucks for people are going to go back to voting how they were originally planning to. And that doesn't matter. You can't actually really bribe voters in the long run, because as soon as the writ drops for an election, people are going to just assume everything that you promise is just an empty election promise. Election promises don't actually move the polls all that much. Very rarely do they actually do it. When you're in government, announcements can affect your polls. But if people don't see results from that very quickly, people turn on you again. And so what's going to happen is Justin Trudeau is going to put the country down further into this drain spiral that we're currently in by announcing $6 billion here and $4 billion here and $500 million here. And he's going to keep putting us further and further into debt and keep further increasing inflation, basically just for these temporary little poll boosts that do nothing because people don't trust him personally. So really, people are just going to be like, well, I'll vote for the Conservatives and hope that they deliver the Liberal programs better. And even then, the polling shows that people actually kind of want government cuts these days because they no longer like the government living high on the hog while the average citizen who doesn't work for the government is having to, reduce the quality of groceries they buy. They have to plan, their days around how much gas they have in their tank. That's ticking people off. And so there's no more sympathy for, program spendings that could hurt vulnerable people, as if any government's ever going to cut spending for vulnerable people. It's going to be HR, administration, and departments that do nothing. There are tons of that in government right now. Oh. Anyways, that should be enough for me today, guys. Just want to quickly plug, Wyatt Claypool, I'm running for the Calgary Signal Hill Conservative Party nomination. If you live in this riding on the west side of Calgary, buy a Conservative Party membership and visit my website, wyattclaypool.com in the description below. And then also, if you want to donate, if you don't live in my riding, you can donate to the legal fund for myself and the National Telegraph for being sued by a billionaire developer from China for defamation that he cannot prove and has not provided any evidence for in over 2 years. And he's just dragging it out at this point. So anything you can donate to that really helps reduce the burden of cost on us in the long run. Anyways, that should be it for me today. Have a good one.